Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for Politically Incorrect Knitters. I'm Deplorable Knitter. I am joined, as always, by my fabulous co-host, Pinkava. And this week, we are sponsored, well, actually not this week. We are sponsored always by the fantastic Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. You can use our code PIK Mayday20 to get 20% off of her yarn. And here's an example of one of her awesome yarns. This is from her Misheard Lyrics collection. And this is There's a Bathroom on the Right. And it is beautiful, and it's got all these fabulous speckles and some neons and just great. So if you want to pick up one of her yarns, use the code PIK Mayday20 for 20% off your order. So Anne, what do you have over there?
Well, I have, I've been working on 2 blankets this week. One I showed off a little bit last week. Begin with the easier one that I've been working on. I don't even have a name for this, but it's a baby blanket knitted in a triangle and then Kitchener stitched together. So yeah, I've lots of plain garter knitting for me this week, but the yarn is Mandala Lion brand, whatever, and I've just been having it for a while and I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's nice. Not to totally jump in on your thing, but I started doing some baby blankets too. And I have yarn that's just been sitting around, and I'm gonna find someone to donate them to when they're done. Because I've exhausted all my babies. I've done all the baby knitting, so I think that I'm gonna start just using up stuff because it has been hanging around a long time.
Right.
But
oh, definitely. And that's one of the things too that I'm like, I only had 4 skeins of this. I'm like, this is only so as much for a certain amount of baby blanket. This is it. I'm not buying any more. I've had this idea in my head. Throw it out there. Done.
Yep.
But also, kind of the bigger project is that I got the main sections together for the Quinn's quilt that I've been working on a while. So that is, more intricate. But yeah, it is huge and it is lovely. And by huge, I mean not big enough though, because which is something I posted about it on Instagram, and like a lot of people are like, oh wow, that's so cool. I could never do it. First of all, you can. Don't do that. You can do it. You're fine. But it's, I think I figured that it's about 4 foot 8 inches across. And on one hand, it's like, okay, so this was a lot of yarn, a lot of knitting, a lot of everything else. But on the other hand, I'm like, I'm going to put so much effort into it. I mean, I want a blanket. I want like a queen size blanket here. And this is not that.
Right. And for people who are like, oh, 4'8", that's not so bad or whatever. For reference, our friend Anne is actually like 5'10". I've never seen her in person, but I've heard rumors that she's quite tall. So a blanket that's 4'8" is just not going to cut it either way. Not even for like a couch blanket. So
yeah, I know. And then, I mean, the original pattern was in DK and I did worsted mostly. I mean, it kind of flexes on the yarns because I did just use random scrap yarns, and you can see, I mean, here, one second. Oh no, I'm dropping stitches because I haven't finished the sides yet, but you can see like where I had to patch yarn in because I didn't have enough. Like I have this weird like New Zealand pink mohair and I ran out mid square. So I had to find something of kind of a similar color to throw in there. And like the greens are different greens throughout that I just throw new in whenever I have. So it's like, oh, so, I want a bigger quilt. Well, where is that yarn coming from? I have no idea. I'm not saying I'm sensible. I'm saying I want a big blanket. I'm just extremely lucky that I had enough yarn for the center star that they would all be the same shades and not have that messed up because, if one bit of gold is different on this side of the quilt and on this side of the quilt, your eyes can kind of smudge it. But if they're right next to each other and in the middle and they're wrong, like that's
what I was going to say. In the middle, they need to like all match, and then the rest of it can be very quilty. But in the middle, it's unless you did it on purpose where they didn't all match, which would also be a style. But if you're trying to make it look like it's the same, then
Yeah, like I have to find the place on the quilt, and it's difficult because oh yeah, here's another one where my greens are. This is more lady, she gave me 2 skeins of like, this is real New Zealand mohair ages ago. So I was putting the last bits of this in, and that's like green that I spun myself. But I'm trying to find, because there's another portion of it where the colors don't match, and it's funny. Hang on. Oh, here. That it's supposed to be 2 blocks of the same either side. And I don't know if you can see that there's, you probably can't see it all. Who cares anyways, right? But there's a little dark portion of not the same. And oh, it's fun and quilty and artsy. But yeah, that's kind of been my entire attitude throughout this thing. That, okay, so near the bottom, there's these 2 sections of green. Those greens don't match these greens, don't match the, wait, hang on. These ones may match those. We're getting some continuity here. This side definitely doesn't match. So it's been a really fun project and Mod Podge that way. And I have to finish out the ends. And so here, one second. So once you put the side things on, you put a final square in the corner. And I'm supposed to put the blue in the corner, but I don't think I have enough blue. I actually had to, I made an old Union Jack hat, but the lines weren't perfect on it. Like it was like one of the earlier versions of the pattern, and the sort of diagonal stripes on the Union Jack, they're not even. It's a lie, and it's infuriating. So I ended up pulling apart that hat so I'd have enough of this blue left so I could get it all. And I'm like, oh, but I'm not going to have enough of that blue for the garters. Anyways, so yes, it's a mess. It's a beautiful mess, but it's a mess. But yeah, I'm having a good time, and I actually am thinking of doing another one. Not soon. I'll have to like set it back there as a mental thing, but right. I want a queen size quilt. I'm in it to win it.
It's funny. You posted it on Instagram yesterday, and so of course I showed it to my husband, and he was like, that is really awesome looking. Why don't you make one of those? And I go, no, because he knows me. He's like, I don't understand. But he's like, but something looks weird with the edges, because he was looking at the spots where the corners are missing. I'm like, well, she's not done with it. He's like, oh, okay. It was kind of funny though. He was like, that thing's so cool. We were, and of course I showed it to him because my birthday was like a week ago now or whatever. And for my birthday, I got more of these bins for my yarn. And so you can't just put yarn in them. It means there has to be some sort of organization. I have to decide which yarn's going there. And I rearranged all of these here so that they're much prettier looking and not as squished. And he's going, look at all this crap you have. You could totally make one of those. And I'm like, but I'm not gonna. And he goes, and I don't understand. He said, I don't see you buying that much yarn, and you make a lot of stuff, but it never gets less. There's always more. He's like, how does that happen? I'm like, well, I do buy yarn. I don't buy a ton of it, but he's like, well, you gotta stop. I'm like, fine. So
it's like, well, if you used it all to make a quilt, you'd be like, but I need more yarn.
It would be so sad, and then my baskets would be empty, and then what would I do? It would be terrible.
And then you have much less range to work with when you have a new pattern idea.
Exactly. That's part of it that he doesn't quite get. He works a lot like with his hands, and he does things outdoors, and he wants to have the correct tool and stuff. I think I need to explain it like that. Like it would be like trying to do something with a Phillips head screwdriver when you really need a flathead. Sometimes I need to have this many choices.
Right. It's like, this isn't just yarn, this is raw material.
Yes, these are the tools of my trade. Don't knock them. But I did get more yarn, and I want to show it to you guys. But before we do that, I want to remind you that you guys have one more week to enter on episode 100 to get a copy of Odyssey Tale, the non-woke book by Cody Schlegel, and the April box from Callius Designs, the broken yarn box. And Anne's got the colors for you, because I may have shared mine already.
Right, that, you know, in case you don't remember what's in it. You have these beautiful colors here. And I really love them. He's just gorgeous. I really love this guy. Edith Wilson with the dark greens and reds, and I adore him. Anyways, so this is what you get in the box. There's also a cowl pattern, one both in knitting and crochet. That there is stitch markers and a little see, there's the
Progress
regular
keeper.
yes, the
There's
progress
a little
keeper.
progress keeper.
We'll get on it.
So
It's
there's
very
that.
But yeah, that is
Um,
all in that box and the book for the giveaway. And I
Oh,
believe they had a coupon code in our last episode too, in the 100th episode.
yes. If you want to see what their coupon code is, it's good through the 21st, and you can find it in episode 100. We're gonna make you work for it a little bit, but
I think you put it up on the screen too, so if you scroll, you
I
can find it.
did. So if you see it, it's right there for you. So I did use some of my birthday money, because y'all know when we get a little bit of extra money, it's obviously a good thing to buy yarn with it. And I haven't even opened these yet. I waited for you guys. I feel so proud. I actually didn't wait for you guys. Literally, Ann and I were getting ready to record, and my husband goes, "Hey, there's a box here for you." So it's just good timing. So I got this, which is a it is a Sally Ride Mohair hat set. So there's Mohair silk and there's BFL fingering weight. And I know that I don't usually use either of these kinds of things, but look it's pretty purple with a really pretty gray color. It's got some of the purple undertones. And I totally thought that that could be an awesome anything, or my mom would like it and it could be a present, or I mean, pretty. It will look pretty on my shelf and it will be there when I want it.
For when you have that perfect mohair idea, you're like, yeah.
Exactly.
That
Exactly. And then this says Unwinding with Deplorable. They put my name right in the box. I mean, that's pretty cool. And this is the other thing I bought. I didn't subscribe to their monthly box thing because, as most of you guys know, I'm not a huge fan of fingering weight, but when they have the 5 different skeins, I feel like that's something I can, you know, hold together or do different things with, so it's not as crazy as it could be. So this month I got Martha Randolph, Mamie Eisenhower, Michelle Obama, Lucretia Mott, and Babe Dickinson Zarias. I don't know who that person is. So that's kind of fun.
I love how it's like yarn trading cards. I was like,
I
oh,
know.
who you got?
So I got that. And then there's some tea,
Ooh.
a couple different kinds of tea. And I'm sure that if I read all of this, which I will do later, it will tell me. Look at this. I got a hand-turned needle case. It's got 2 needles in it, but I am always losing stuff. Look at how pretty that is.
That is cool.
Look at this. Just in case anybody wanted to know who I am. And then on the back it says Callius Designs, which is pretty neat. And then let's see. And then there's the yarns. And they're all so lovely. And honestly, I think my favorite one in this bundle is this one right here in the middle. That's Mamie Eisenhower. And honestly, that's one of the skeins that I looked at several times, thinking about buying a whole skein. But yeah, so awesome stuff. So I will be knitting. I will hopefully be knitting. Actually, I was telling Anne, I've been kind of a little bit lax in my, not lax, but I have forgotten to mail in my report for my kids. 3rd quarter has come and gone, and I did not mail in their 3rd quarter report. So I need to go do that before any more knitting can occur.
Right.
And Yeah, I have been lax. And there's also a pattern to be written. And I've said it a couple times, but this little mitt we're calling Busy or Busy Bee. We haven't quite decided on a name yet, but for Busy Busy Yarn, there's this pattern that we're writing up. Little mitts. It'll be our first pair of mitts that we're going to put out. So, and I like how I use the royal we. My mom helps me. So when I say we, it's because she's helping me, not because I'm the queen. Although that would also be fabulous. But
Hey,
there you go.
perfect.
In case you didn't know who I was, guys, it's right there.
See, like a proper podcaster. I noticed that,
yeah.
in a lot of other things, they'll have like a little sign in the background with this is episode whatever. Like I was watching Sweet Mountain Crafts the other day, and she has a little sign by her. I'm like, oh, wow, I have never done that.
Yeah, we could totally have something that says like Politically Incorrect Knitters, episode 101. And it's funny because when I'm editing them, like I have to go back through like the past weeks to see what week it is because I'm like, I don't remember.
I think there'd be a cue in the video. I just, have the Donald and my hat patterns, and that's new. But
Yeah. But Anne's background's going to change because she's going to have to find a new place to lay her head.
Yeah. Doing the whole housing shuffle. That's exciting.
It's always fun.
Yeah, so hopefully that one works out. Me, I'm just a homeless romantic. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going. I'll figure it out though. I've got some options.
I don't think that's the phrase, Anne. That's funny. So Anne has got, apparently, Anne and I talked, right? And we were talking about the different things we're going to watch. And so apparently Anne fell headlong into British news. So she has all the British news you never knew you wanted.
Yes, I did. Well, and speaking of royal we like the Queen, it's Platinum Jubilee. It's a grand old time. That apparently that the Queen has said that no Prince Andrew and no Harry and Meghan during the little balcony appearances, that they are not allowed to appear with her. And it's hilarious to me that they're both kind of the same thing. Like, hey, Andrew, you've disgraced yourself in the eyes of the nation with connection with Epstein and everything else. But then also Harry and Meghan, you're just jerks and you diss the Queen at every opportunity. You're not invited either. It's my party and I'll have who I want.
And I'll cry if I want to. No, but Joe Biden's sister said that she wanted Meghan Markle to run for president. And I was like, I'm pretty sure not anybody really cares for her. I mean, some people do, but
yeah,
the overwhelming consensus is nobody gives a crap, right?
Yeah, well, her, in her stats category, it's all beauty and no brains. So, I mean, no, to give her, fairness, that, you have to be at least relatively smart to marry a prince and then to have him under your thumb all this time. So that's cool. And not to say that he's a particularly intelligent lad, but he was a bro. He was just a bro. And poor guy. Anyways, I mean,
I don't know, poor guy. I mean, he's kind of, I have feelings about things, but
well, and I've said this before, but my brother is so funny whenever it's brought up, because I never knew this guy was that ride or die for the Queen. But he's like, you do not insult your grandmother. You do not treat the Queen this way. You do not. And he just rants on. But then I'll be like, so, and it's sort of a similar marital situation that my brother is divorced. And yes, his wife was very controlling and did have that level of emotional control over, where he'd do anything for her. And then afterwards he's looking at that like, wow, that was bad. So he's one of the few people who still has sympathy for Harry that way of, yeah, he's being horrible right now, but that happens.
That's funny.
And
I thought that the whole, what's it called when you are into the royal family? It's got a name. But anyway, I thought that was like a hereditary thing because you're so into it that I just figured, your family has got to be into it too, right? It's got to come from somewhere.
Well, that's true. Well, the Pinkava clan were ride or die for the Queen. pro-Israel. You know, we have a couple of set family principles down the line.
So tell us what Stein has told you about the world, because we
Well,
all know that Anne is also loyal to Mark Stein.
That's
So.
true. That's true. There's several. That's a problem, you know, when you see things more through relationships. Anyways, but both Mark Stein and Dan Wooten, and these are stories we've all heard before because we've been paying attention, but both of them have been going very strong, interviewing people who have either been vaccine injured or whose family members have died. Specifically from that they mostly talk about the AstraZeneca vaccine, but there's also mentioning of Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and the rest of them. AstraZeneca was the one largely pushed in England. And it's interesting with their situation because, okay, so in America, and we have the Pfizer documents coming out about all of these problems, but that there's no vaccine liability in America. So, you know, if you die or have, you know, neurological damage or anything like that, it's like, well, bummer. We have legislation about that, and it's terrible. And I mean, definitely something that still needs to be talked about and kicked up a fuss about. But in England, because they have the NHS, they do have vaccine liability. And they say, oh yeah, if you're injured, you can write into here, and here's the thing, and here's the form to fill out, and your medical history, and you could be compensated, you know, upwards of £100,000. And isn't that great? Except that there's a lot of people, and they've been interviewing people, that one lady, her name was Jules Sirkin, and she's a BBC presenter, and she had issues day of getting her vaccine, and you know that she's you know weak, that she can't get up and do things anymore, that she has droopy eye, that she has all these different issues. And she said, and talking to other people about it, that there's a lot of similar side effects, and that when you report into the NHS, that there's some people saying that, oh yeah, they say they got my medical history, except 3 months later, they say they're still waiting for medical history, that there used to be only 4 people in the entire NHS bureaucracy that handled vaccine injury claims. And now they've switched it over to another department, and nobody is getting a dime. And people aren't being seen. And these are just for the people who have filled out the paperwork and were even, like, there's cases on death certificates where they say died to complications due to the vaccine. And even those people, that their families aren't being compensated. There's a lady in her 30s with 2 young kids, and she's a widow now. And she says that I'm entitled to compensation about this, and nothing's being done. You got men in their 50s. You got one man, he got a clot and lost a leg. And that isn't mentioned. Some of the people who've died at the inquest, they've had AstraZeneca lawyers in a Zoom call watching the inquest, and still nothing. And
wow.
Another, that it's been said that in order to get this vaccine compensation through the NHS, you need to have been 60% injured. Okay, but if you lose a leg, that isn't 60%.
Yeah.
So
you don't qualify.
Yeah.
But how do you quantify 60% injured? I mean, if you can't work anymore, you're disabled. So you, like, 60% of your body injured, or is it 60% of your ability to earn, or is it, like, how do they, I don't know, man.
That it has to be 60, from what I understand, it has to be 60% of your body injured.
But that's dumb. And how can you quantify that with, like, a brain injury? If your brain's injured, you can't.
Right. And not only that, so a lot of people, and again, we've, like, this that vaccine injuries have been happening for a while, and that is part of the whole proposition of having a vaccine, and that is why they ought to be voluntary, and they have been voluntary until this point. Like right now, there is so much social pressure that there is so much do the right thing, protect the NHS, which is just a creepy phrase, but it's like, you know, save grandma. You get out there and there's advertisements and safe and effective, and Pfizer is on all, not just British television, certainly not. They're all through American television, and they're sponsoring programs and comedy shows. And, you know, there's billboards on the side of the road that you should do this to protect other people. And there was one I saw that it was like, no, don't say goodbye because you didn't take your vaccine. And it was one of those t-shirts with someone's dad on it, and it was supposed to guilt you into getting the vaccine. So these people, in effect, did what they thought was the right thing, and they took the vaccine. And also, you know, restrictions on air travel, restrictions on what businesses to go to, a lot of people, restrictions on their jobs, that they needed the vaccine or they were fired. And
right. And that's the thing. It's not even that they were doing what they thought was right. They were doing what was required of them to continue to live. And so therefore,
that you're
they
very,
may have,
go ahead.
you know, if I was a single mom and my choice was to get the vaccine and continue working to support my kids or lose my job, even though I am very morally against the vaccine, I probably would have done it, because what's more important, being able to provide for my kids, or, you know, I mean, I wish I could say standing up for what's right is the most important thing, but I mean, that doesn't put food on the table. And if I'm a single mom, I've got to do what I have to do.
Right.
And so you put people in that position and then you don't compensate them, or you blame them, or it's like appalling.
Right. And even, you know, so some of the people who are being interviewed about this, you know, the lady who is 30 and she's lost her husband. So she was interviewed, and then she put her interview out on Instagram, and Instagram took it down for misinformation. It's like, so you're saying that her husband's death, her widowhood, that this is a lie? And then even, I mean, we have this issue too in America, but there's a station called Talk Radio in England, and it's supposed to be, you know, all the big butch buddy boys. And yeah, we're conservative and we're really out there. Mike Graham, who I would say was generally solid on issues, like general wave, I'd put him in, you know, Clay Travis or Dan Bongino territory, that sort of
Right.
general conservative, mostly talk radio guy. And he just said that all of these people complaining about the vaccines, that this is just misinformation, and they're just kicking up a fuss for no reason, and what are they doing? And it's really shocking. And it's also the collusion there that, okay, and it's a little more, I mean, in America, certainly our government is connected with the medical sector and everything, but it's not quite as direct because it's not a national health service.
Right.
It is, but it's not as,
Not the
it's
same.
there, but yeah, you know what I mean. But okay, so that means that if these payouts start happening, that means to give someone money is an admission of guilt. And if you admit guilt, then it keeps going. And then you know, the radio and the TV in England is regulated by Ofcom. But Ofcom is now saying, you can't be saying this. And then social media companies are saying you can't be saying this. And people who have had this affect their lives, in a lot of cases permanently medically, and permanently because somebody has died. And once they try to get it out there, and several people have said, well, I didn't want to say anything because after all, you know, this is all doing the right thing, but I wish I had said something sooner. And if they try to say, hey, this is not, you know, this has some issues to it, you know, there's, you know, and you could even say like, well, this had issues, but make your own choices. That's not allowed, that you can't freely talk about this. If, you know, and this was brought up by a gal from the Australian Spectator, Alexandra Marshall. She says, okay, in a world where, let's say the government wasn't pushing the vaccine, or maybe they said, hey, we have this program, and they did a little advertising, but they weren't pushing it, and anyone can take it or not, that's fine. And then in a world where everyone was free to talk about it online, if they had medical issues resulting from the vaccine or not, okay, then how many people would take it? Like if you didn't have this emotional grip, just shoving your face in it all day and this scare tactic about it, and then you didn't have the voices of dissent then censored, and then, you know, all of that, like you posted a meme the other day. I kept trying to follow the science, but I keep finding the money.
That's true. I did post it, and it's all true. But so you're talking about misinformation. Okay, so I posted a meme that was not that one. I posted a meme that said Rich Strike, the horse that won the Kentucky Derby, was invited to meet President Biden, and he refused, saying that if he had wanted to see a horse's ass, he would have come in second. It got fact checked this morning.
Wow.
Because they were like, no, the jockey didn't do it. And I'm like, if you people can read, it's a joke. And it says that the horse said this. Therefore, it's a joke. Like, this is how desperate they are to keep their, and I know that this isn't quite like the same thing, but they're so desperate to keep the narrative that they're going to say that widow is lying. They're going to tell me that my joke, my legitimate joke about a horse talking, is false, because heaven forbid you have anybody who is not on the same, right there in lockstep. I can't imagine being told that my husband's death was misinformation. I would be, I mean, it's got to be the worst time of her life as it is. She's a 30-year-old widow with 2 kids. I can't imagine. And then being said that, no, this is fake, I would probably be breaking stuff down. Like legitimately storming castles. Like, come on.
You're throwing more than hands at that point, yeah.
And this is the world we live in, though, where people think that this is normal. It's normal to say, no, what actually happened in your life is not real. And also, hey, heaven forbid you try to make a joke, because that's also not real.
Yeah. And also with, with Ofcom, regulating TV and radio and stuff, that, so the European Union is putting forward an online, or England's putting forward an online harms bill too, that we want to curb that misinformation. And America wants to curb that misinformation with the scariest looking woman. And we can talk about that in a second, but that Ofcom is hiring the government. This is the government agency that wants to be in charge of what you can and cannot say in a public forum, are hiring the Facebook fact checkers. So we know that one's going to work out.
Well, I don't remember if we talked about it or not, but it's similar to Biden's Ministry of Truth and that freaking creepy chick singing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, except she's talking about misinformation. Dude, if you guys want to be chilled to your core, go look at that up, because she is creepy, and the way she is singing that song so happily, you know that she's the Dolores Umbridge of the Trump, of the Biden presidency, and she just wants you to shut up and follow her line, and she just thinks she's so wonderful while doing it.
No,
it's
but that's
terrifying.
Okay, so this is going to get off in the weeds for a second. So hold on. Just like, I want you to suspend a little bit of disbelief here, because this is what's happening. So it's Jankowicz is the gal's last name. I don't remember what her first name is. One second.
Right.
Nina Jankowicz. Okay, so be sure your sins will find you out. What has been breeding in the internet for years will turn out into fully functioning adults that they'll put in charge of things. Okay, so once upon a time, there was a thing online called Wizard Rock, which was mostly around a band called Harry and the Potters, okay? And they were terrible. Like, this is the worst rhyming scheme. They could barely play their instruments. And yes, I did have a couple of their CDs because it was hilarious, okay? But this is when, you're just like a teenage fangirl and you think this is funny because it is. Okay, so let's keep that out there. And then there were other bands, and there was Draco and the Malfoys, but Nina Jankowicz was part of the Moaning Myrtles. And yes, these people did go on tour, not to big crowds, but it was funny. And that's the entire point, that it was funny. But anyways, so as you could expect, the Moaning Myrtles had a couple of pretty saucy lyrics, and Breitbart was saying this, that Nina Jankowicz has on recording of singing songs with dead child sex, and it's like, wow, that's shocking. But the song was about Moaning Myrtle having the hots for Harry Potter and wanting him to die so they could be ghosts together. And I'm not saying that that's appropriate, but I'm saying that that's quite a clickbaity title there. But anyways, and again, I'm not saying that raunchy Harry Potter fan fiction is like something that you should put a thumbs up on, but also like, it's the internet. And when you are a young liberal woman with shock jock humor, I can guarantee that if she didn't write, she certainly read gay Harry Potter and Draco fan fiction. Like, it happened. Okay, this happened.
I think we did talk about this before. Now that we're doing it again.
Exactly, because this is the internet. And I think we may have just talked about this personally, not on the show, but
could be.
Anyways, yeah. But this is the internet. This is what happens. And it's like, should this be condoned? No. Have you walked into your young adult section lately and just pulled random books?
Okay.
It's like,
Speaking of random books, can I get off on a topic for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just finished reading a book. It was called The Love Hypothesis. I had to wait like 3 months to get it. It was supposed to be a rom-com type of thing. I should have known, right? Should have known, if it's on the wait list for that long, that it's not for me. But I don't learn my lesson ever, because I want to read books, and sometimes I want to read books that don't have much substance to them and are funny. And that balances out like all the historical stuff I read and different things.
Yeah, just Twinkie every once in a while. Just something light and fun. Right.
Well, so it started off with a whole bunch of BIPOC whatever nonsense. And I'm like, fine, okay, because they're women in STEM or STEAM, or no, STEM. STEAM is when they put arts into it and then people get mad about it. But and it's whatever, it's this kind of dumb story. And then it had the filthiest sex scene in it I have ever had the misfortune of listening to. Like, went way beyond what any other book I have ever come across was. And I'm like trying to fast forward it, and it was like 25 minutes long. Like, I could not get to the end of it. And I would like, and this is what is normal now. And this is what is, dude, I want to read a funny book. I want to read a funny book that doesn't have an agenda. There was a gay character in this book. He was actually really funny. I enjoyed him. Like, you can put that stuff in without it like being the only focus of your book. But man, so anyway, you were talking about the shelves of the young adult books. This is an adult book, but still, I don't read that kind of stuff, but I imagine that it has got to be worse than some like erotica or whatever. Right. It was filthy. And then I'm sitting here and I'm listening to, well, I'm trying to get through it, but I keep hearing it. And I'm like, as the narrator, how can you possibly even read that? I would be mortified. I would be beet red and hiding under the table if somebody was like, here, I will pay you $1 million to read this. Because honestly, I'd probably try and then I'd probably die. And that's the end of it.
Well, that's the thing that, I mean, I run into in movies a lot, and people are like, oh, well, Anne, you're just a prude. I'm like, okay, fine. Prude from Prudeville, albeit. But and be like, I would say minimum of 98% of all movie sex scenes are not needed. Like, I don't want to be the guy who says that there can never be a sex scene in a movie. It's like, okay, you're telling a story, I get it. But also it's like, now we're just going to throw this in for fun. Like, no, thank you, please, no, stop.
Well, sex scenes are kind of like gratuitous slasher flicks. Like, more terrified when you allude to something. Something
Right.
is more romantic sometimes when you allude to it. You don't have to show me. That's fine. Like,
Right. And that's the
you
thing,
know,
though, that
have the
you can
couple go in
tell
the
the
room and shut
story
the
better in
door.
other ways.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, it's more romantic when the couple kisses and goes into the other room and the lights dim. Like, that's all you need. Everybody knows what's going to happen. Do we have to watch it? And but that, so I know we are so far off of the topic we started on, but it's the, I believe it goes to the lowering of moral standards in our country and the sexualization of our youth. If because I've read some young adult books, like I said, the ones I look for when I'm not reading a historical or a something is usually humor. I really like police or lawyer kind of things too, but it's either going to be something like that or it's going to be a humorous book. And so I do read a lot of young adult books too, and there's stuff in there that is not appropriate.
Mhm.
I'm a 39-year-old woman and I don't find it appropriate. I don't like, it's getting to the point where my kids got one who's 9, so their reading level's like a 5th grade late reading level. Like, I'm going to have to start pre-reading books because I don't trust what they're trying to teach our, and there's a reason they're putting it in, because if you put it in and you put in the filthiest thing you can think of, then it's normal. It's not a big deal. And if everybody's immune to it, then you can push your agenda. You know, you can have the gay character and the BIPOC and the, because it's, if you say it enough, it's what everybody believes.
Right. And also, I will say, okay, and there's many books I'm evangelical about. One of my favorite books of all time is called No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. It's an incredible book, but it's every trigger warning. It's, that he's been abused and there is sex in the book and there's rape mentioned in the book and there's drugs, and down the line, it's every, it's like, well, I'll put a trigger warning. It's right here. But all of the, at the same time, it's not gratuitous. It's not, it's like, and we're going to go up back and we're going to talk about this for ages. It's that very precise, fine touch. And also what's great about him in particular, his writing style, is that it's a very precise, but it's a very emotional writing style. That entire book just, hits you right in the heart. But it does that by the emotions of it, by how it affects the internal conversation of the main character's life when he's going through these things and how that happens. So it's a very fine emotional description of what's going on, but last I heard, it's the best-selling book in Japan of all time because it is so good. And, perhaps not everyone has his skill, but it's that level of, no, it's like, oh, well, you just don't want these subjects to be addressed. No, I'm not saying don't ever use these subjects. I'm saying that there is a way to handle this well. And a lot of people are like, no.
But that's exactly true. And I've never read that book. I'm gonna have to see if I can get it. But
really good. It's not a long book, but like I said,
right.
But
one of the ones that I just finished that was based on real events. It was called Picking Cotton, and it was about a man who was falsely imprisoned for rape, and it was written by the woman who testified against him and the man. They're now good friends, and they wrote the book together. And he talked about his time in prison and things that were going on with him, and she talked about her experience with rape. And my point is not that you can't talk about these things. The point is that you don't talk about them in a way that is like she wasn't celebrating the fact that she got raped or putting a ton of information out about what specifically happened to her. She was able to talk about her feelings and what she didn't feel safe in her home, and you understood without knowing every single thing that happened to her. And we've lost that. And I think it's because there is a push to desensitize us, because if you know everything, if you hear a story about how this woman was slashed and stabbed and strangled and it's desensitizing. If you start talking about sexual things with your kids early, it makes it, not that, scrap that, but you just start sexualizing kids younger, because then it makes these things normal, and
Right.
that's not right.
Yeah, and I'm sure we all remember, different upbringings and everything, but when you're a kid and you hear strong language in a movie and you're like, oh, whoa, like that's not right. Or, when you see something inappropriate in a movie and it is shocking, and, that level of, and like I said, still kind of shocked sometimes, like, oh, wow, you showed that. But even for things that you would think are supposed to be more child friendly now, that it's more of that. Even something as simple as bad language, that there's more of that you can't just have fun for the whole family programming anymore.
Right.
And again, I've said before how I enjoy Attack on Titan. That is rated mature for a reason. I'm not saying that there should never be a program, any programming, or that that violence could never be used as a plot point, or that anything else could never be used as a plot point. But again, it's,
there's a difference. There's like, I naively didn't realize that Turning Red was about the girl coming of age, and that kind of thing with the Disney movie, but it's marketed towards like 6-year-olds. That movie was not appropriate for its age group that it was marketed to. It's not that you can't do it, it's not that you can't have it. My husband and I love to watch Adult Swim, which is on Cartoon Network. It's, Bob's Burgers and Family Guy and American Dad, and those shows are filthy, but we also think they're funny. And so it's not that you can't enjoy these things, it's that in Adult Swim it says this is not suitable for kids. It's, even though they're cartoons, because they're not suitable for kids, and that's what we're starting to lose. Like, when is Adult Swim going to just be like, just swim and anybody can watch it? I don't know, but I'm not saying you can't have entertainment that's for adults or is grittier, but why does it have to be in everything? This book that I read, if it wasn't first off, it was so pushing the BIPOC thing, which is, it could have been fine if it had done with like you said, that guy wrote his book with a fine touch. If it had been done well, it could have been fine in the story, but it was so over the top, down your throat, it was obnoxious. And then the story was so cute. It could have been so cute without the 30-minute freaking Playboy Channel scene in it. I don't need that. I'm good. It just kills me. And I think that it's the shift. It's the shift in our stuff from, this is what's good family content, to like, we can show more of this stuff. And one of my favorite movies, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of my favorite movies is The Beginning of the End, Gone with the Wind. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. That opened the door. It was a big freaking deal. And it's hard to believe it now, but it was.
Yeah, but that, at the point, it was shocking for him to say it, that was,
I know.
Whoa.
But that was the door opening for the language. And if the language didn't open, then, it was bound to happen either way. But I'm just saying that it takes one thing and then it moves on.
Yeah, and also kind of the market share for family entertainment has shifted a lot. That there's less, there's much less content out there now that is appropriate for kids to watch, and sort of pushing it into the like, oh, well, kids, you can watch more. After all, what else are you going to watch? And that there's the idea of the entire family is going to watch a show and it's going to be appropriate for the entire family is being lost more and more too.
That's true though. When I was a kid, TGIF was a thing. It was the TV shows on Friday night, and it was Family Matters and Boy Meets World, and I think there were a few others. but they were kind of dumb shows, but they were cute and they were fine. And I looked forward to watching them. And my parents maybe didn't love them, but it wasn't like they despised them either. And it was wholesome. It was, oh, I got bullied at school and we had to work through the problem. And there's not much of that anymore. It's um even now my kids are starting to get older, it's life, and they want to watch um they don't want to watch as many cartoons, they want to watch some other things, and a lot of it's just not things that I would approve of because it's just not how we roll here, and it's hard. I don't know.
Right. And also, I mean, so, as the sort of TV shows through the era, I mean, you have family sitcoms like that. And then you used to have things like the A-Team too, which, fun, blow them up, everything. And I wonder too about it's, yes, there's amount of like an agenda pushing whatever. But also that the idea of what relationships are have also changed enough so that they do become less and less, you'd say, appropriate. Like, in an older show, if you have a guy and he likes a girl and okay, they're a couple now, that at that point, in a more modern show, it's okay, so we're ripping each other's clothes off, 5 minutes after we met each other. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? How is that a reasonable view of a relationship,
Right. And there's yeah, and because they're trying to push agendas, there's just a whole bunch of different things in there.
Right.
But it's not something I meant to talk about today. I'm sorry to get off on this tangent.
Well, that's not something I meant to talk about anyways. Nina Jankowicz. That's where we started.
I love how you can get back on track. Like, I totally forgot how we even got there. And Anne's like, okay, so this weird chick singing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious was
Right.
a moaning myrtle.
Right, was part of the band the Moaning Myrtles. No, but she's one of those gals who she wants to be the fun and quirky Broadway star. She wants to be, what's her face, blonde gal. She was the good witch in Wicked, Kristen Chenoweth.
Oh, okay.
She wants to be Kristen Chenoweth singing Taylor the Latte Boy. And yes, that is a fun thing, but this gal, among the many offensive things she believes, one of them is that she's funny. And this is the gal, and she says that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation, and she says that anyone who says anything against Kamala Harris is against national security. Certainly, she didn't extend that to Mike Pence. That this, and she's nuts. Looks like she could be Gretchen Whitmer's daughter. She has that kind of sharp harshness about her face. And yeah, she has no qualms about censoring anyone who disagrees with her and thinking she's in the right the whole time. And this is the head of our Ministry of Disinformation.
Yeah. Isn't it the Ministry of Truth, or is it really called disinformation?
It's actually called disinformation. Okay. Yeah, Babylon Bee had a thing that George Orwell, dang, should have said that instead of truth.
Right? And like, the fact that they have a ministry now for this, it's like, guys, if you read 1984, at least like, don't call it a ministry, like call it a department or a, like, come on, at least pretend you aren't just following what he said is going to happen.
Well, and also not, to make things worse, this ministry isn't just like out of whole cloth. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about this. No, it's under the Department of Justice.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, under the actual legal enforcer, not just like, yeah, oh, buddy boy, yeah.
Super.
And this is not just, we've seen it in America, but also Canada, where the cops were knocking on your door because you were pro trucker protests on Facebook. Same thing happened in Australia. Pregnant woman was arrested in her house because she organized an anti-lockdown protest. We got people in England where they were on a permanent list because of what they've posted on Twitter. We have all of these issues. I mean, free speech is one of the biggest issues right now of the Western world, and it connects to everything else.
Right.
But yeah, it is, people want you to shut up.
They do, and they don't, and they want you to go quietly and not point out any, well, obviously if you point it out, you're not doing what's right.
Right. But also, if they want you to shut up, that means you're working.
Yeah, you're doing something right. I mean, how many times can they cancel you? Just remember, once you're canceled, it's over. You've already been canceled, so move on.
Well, what's the Gandhi line that first they ignore you, then they make fun of you, then they yell at you, then you win, or then they're violent. It's anger and violence in the same. But the last one is, in the end, if you get through all of that, then you win.
Right. And not to totally, I know I took your part off the rails, but I wanted to mention a couple of things because all of a sudden I think we've gone long. So brain work. I watched 2000 Mules. Okay. I watched 2000 Mules, the Dinesh D'Souza video. Guys, if you can, watch it, because the stuff that they talk about, like I was telling my dad about it after I watched it, and he's like, well, you know, there's still like questions about it, right? And I'm like, dude, they just set the bar like super high for what they were looking for so that they couldn't accidentally count people in that weren't part of the election rigging.
Mm-hmm.
And they had enough votes for Trump to be president just with the super high standard of these 2,000 people that they were looking at. Mm-hmm. So, and I was like, why is it 2,000 mules? Because they were looking at the people delivering the ballots like cartel mules. Mm-hmm. So they're people who are picking up the ballots and moving them around, because maybe it was said somewhere, but I wasn't paying enough attention to know. So that's what it was, because I was going, mules, what the hell is he talking about? Right. But the information that they have is insane. And if something doesn't come of this, I mean, I don't know how they would do something now that it's been 2 years, but it's insane. Okay, that's all I can say. You have to watch it. I can't even, I mean, I'm gonna watch it again tonight with my husband because I just watched it for the show. And if you thought that there might be something fishy and you weren't sure and whatever, watch it. And then I guess the next thing you can do is to be poll watchers, get into your local elections. I have a friend that I met at co-op who is a homeschooling mom. She's running for her local school board because she can. Mm-hmm. There's no reason that she can't just because she homeschools. And she has specific ideas about what things should be done and what should be presented to our kids. And so, you know, maybe that's something you can do. Maybe there's different things, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of, okay, so with the 2000 Mules movie, I haven't seen it yet, but there's a lot of pessimism going around in that if this happens, it can never be reversed. Like, okay, well, these people won't be prosecuted. It's like, yeah, but you can stop it from happening again. You can be the guy shining a light on it. You can be the one who makes sure it's good. You can know who you're voting for and why, you know.
Right. And I think part of the pessimism may come from the fact that it appears that Republicans know about this, the ones that are in office, maybe have even participated in it, which is discouraging. It's not what we want. But yeah, the thing about this is that the reason it was able to be done on this scale, I mean, it's always going to probably be done. They were talking about like nursing homes, where that's a place where a lot of people get extra votes because the workers do it, and there's places where it may always continue to an extent, but because of the flat out no holds on absentee ballots and different things, the fact that they just got sent to everybody and nobody had to request them and things like that, that's where the issue is. And that's why the Democrats are so against, you know, voter ID, signature verification, requesting your ballot, you know, because people were able to find out who had not returned their absentee ballot and they were able to get those, and that was part of what was going on. And people were saying they had 5 ballots delivered to their house. And so if you're a bad person and you live in an apartment and the people before you never changed their info, they got everybody's ballots that had ever lived in that apartment. And so yeah, it seems discouraging, but also it's one of those things where it's like it can be changed, and the way we're going to change it is a voter ID. And my dad and I talk about it all the time. My dad sells beer, and so he knows a lot of people from all different walks of life because he interacts with people who own stores and different things. And he asked one of them once, he's like, do you know anybody who doesn't have ID? Just out of curiosity, you know? And the guy's like, no, everybody has ID because you got to drive, you got to buy your lotto tickets, you got to buy your cigarettes, you got to buy your anything that people are doing. You can't rent a car without one. You can't. Why are we acting like people are so stupid? This is the thing that kills me about, oh, white fragility, blah, blah, blah. Why do you act like people who are a different color are dumb? I think more than anything, conservatives appreciate people of different colors and appreciate that they are smart, capable people who can function in the world and are able to vote and run for office, and they're smart enough, and if they want to, they can. And acting, why are we on purpose bringing them down? That's racist. Acting like a person who can't vote because they don't have ID, no, that's racist. That's not how it is.
Yeah, it is treating people like infants. It's like, no, you're a grown person and you're capable in this world, and you don't need the government to function. It's amazing.
Sorry. No, I'm very ranty today. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, because it is true. And also it's, with the voter ID thing, it's the mentality of, well, only the left can get things done. That the right just sits there and takes it, and then we barely prevents the left agenda a little bit when our guys are in office. The old line, when the right wins, they're in office, and when the left wins, they're in power. And right. Which was a huge thing with Trump coming in, that Trump came in and he actually changed things for the better. He took out regulations, as Ronald Reagan said, nothing is as close to immortality as a government program. That he, took out regulations for, drilling and for all different production of goods, that for getting manufacturing back in America, for all of these issues, that he actually made an appreciable difference to make America better by getting the government out of the way. And it was incredible. And that scared the crud out of people. I think that also scared a lot of Republicans, a lot of Mitt Romney types who are like, oh, well, we tried, but we did our best. It's like, well, he got in and he actually delivered on his promises. That's wild. You said that you tried and you failed, but the new guy comes in and he actually fixes things, and he actually gets trade agreements in with other countries, and he actually gets treaties. The Abraham Accords were massive. You mean that you're just stalling for no reason? You mean that we can get better people in?
Right. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was the spending bill that was passed yesterday. So on Wednesday, it was passed. And a lot of the Republicans that Anna's talking about voted for it. And it's so, the spending bill for Ukraine is such an example of the Democrats being giant freaking hypocrites, okay? Because the bill is going to strengthen Ukraine's borders. It's going to help with food insecurity. I mean, they've told us that it's racist to secure our borders, but here we are, we're fighting Ukraine's battle, and we're paying to secure their borders when it's racist to do it here at home.
Yeah. Ukraine is the breadbasket of the world. Yeah. Well, I also live in the breadbasket of the world. Hello, Great Plains, Midwest here. And we have, the price of fertilizer is outrageous. The price of seed you know, whatever's going on with the weather. I don't know if it's supposedly bad, or I'm not a farmer, but like we have food prices and fuel prices and inflation off the roof. I mean, a lot of people are talking about baby formula, but that's the thing. The price of eggs, paid attention lately? Not cool. And then there's all these different fires at food processing plants, and that there are shortages and issues, and apparently there's a rash of bird flu going around, so chickens are being killed, and that contributing factor could be the price of seed or feed for them, you know, so the chickens can eat. But also there's a lot of food problems right now, but let's just throw more money at the Ukraine. They're
Right,
winning from what I can tell. So you'd think that they'd be like, nah, guys, we're cool. But
right. And the thing about like their border or their food insecurity, that's not a small problem. I'm not trivializing it, but why are we throwing so much money at that when we are having our own issues here? Like, you know, when you're on an airplane and they're talking about if there's an emergency and you're in charge of a small person, first you fix your own mask on and then you help them fix their mask on.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same situation. We need to take care of ourselves because we have issues.
Yeah.
And then let's help other people. But we don't have the resources. I mean, I'm in a mom's group on Facebook for my local community, and one of the moms was like, I get this special formula in this yellow can. Nobody has it. Please tell me if you see it because my baby needs food. And that's not anything I ever thought I would hear living in America. But here we are spending all this money to Ukraine.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. I'm so angry about it.
It is. And I mean, especially since we have, you know, phrases like stagflation thrown around. That's a fun one.
I heard that one.
Ooh, that is stagnant economy plus inflation. So when your economy isn't growing, but also because if your economy is growing and you have inflation, well, to a certain extent, you can kind of cover that. But it's no stagnant economy and inflation together, just like Britain in the 70s, and to a certain extent, America in the 70s. But, you know.
But I don't know how you can be a Democrat in these days. And if you're a Democrat and you watch us, I really want to, I said it the last time on the episode we had with Neil, I really want to talk to you guys because I want to understand. I feel like we are speaking different languages now. I don't know how you can watch inflation, gas prices, food shortages, and think that everything is okay. Like for real. I want to know what Biden is doing that is good for us because I don't see it. I don't feel it. I grocery shop every couple of weeks. I usually spend $160. The last time I grocery shopped, I spent $230. That's not a change that I can afford in my family because I'm not making more money. So what are people supposed to do? What is going to happen? Right. I want somebody to tell me.
I'm sure it will be, yeah, this is all Putin's fault. and again, perhaps someone watching this has a different reply that it's all Putin's fault. I don't want to, jump in and say your answer, but I know that is something that is often spoken about from the Biden administration, and that it is this is Putin price rise. It's like, no, all we've done has been so mismanaged, and you're just blaming other people, and it's that you have to perpetuate it. Well, we're spending all this money on Ukraine because of what we said the problem was, even though it isn't. It's good money chasing bad.
Yeah, it's I don't understand how anybody can think that with the way prices are rising here, to just keep giving money away is a good idea. Because I don't know about you, but when I run out of money, there's no more money. So just because you can print it doesn't mean that that's actually real money. Like this is something that I've explained to my small children, because one of them said to me, "Well, just take out your credit card." That just makes me have to pay more back. I don't have that. Like if I don't have it, I don't have it. And people have forgotten that that's how it works. Let's just keep writing checks. It's fine. It'll be fine.
That'd be good.
So anyway, sorry I am a bag of laughs today, but it's just so discouraging.
It is discouraging, but there's a lot of people who see it, and the more people who see it every day, the better.
The better. And seriously, watch 2000 Mules. Figure out if there's something you can do. If you have a friend that you can support who would be willing to run, or be a poll watcher and they need childcare, or maybe there's, if you can't go do it yourself, support someone who is able to, if you can, because these things aren't going to change, and we can't just pretend that like that election wonkiness didn't happen. We need to start, the people in power like being in power. And so I think that we need to stop thinking about them and start thinking about what we people can do, because
Right.
That's where it's going to change.
All politics is local.
Exactly. So don't forget to enter on episode 100 on either YouTube or Rumble to win this month's prize, which is a whole pack of Callias yarns, April box, and Cody Schlegel's book.
Mm-hmm. Lovely colors as presented here. They're very nice. Yep. It's a good box. Y'all want it.
It is a good box. And also we have fabulous, wonderful Lynn at chickenladyfiberarts.com who supports us every week. And she has pretty yarns. Use the code PIK Mayday20.
Which you also want.
And this is my new co-host, Vanna White. But guys, we appreciate you tuning in every week and watching us. And please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. All of those things boost us up and help other people find us. If there's something or someone you want to see us talk about or talk to, you can always write us at politicallyincorrectknitters@gmail.com. Anne monitors that box. I don't do it so much, but we're always open to hearing what you have to say. And if there's a Democrat out there who really wants to talk about these things, we would be thrilled to talk about them. Mm-hmm. So, thanks for watching. Join us, like, comment, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, the places. And thanks, Anne, for being you.
Well, thanks for being you too.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
All right, bye.